In this presentation, we're going to dig a little deeper into leadership, and what leaders really do. I'm going to introduce you to the thought leader, John Kotter. He's written a great deal about leadership in business and in other service industries. I think you'll enjoy learning a little bit about his perspective on leaders and management, and I think you'll also enjoy his theories and his strategies for change. So to set the stage for this presentation, we're going to reconnect with Simon Sinek. I would ask you please to click on the link on this slide to listen to a brief presentation by our friend Simon Sinek. Management can be defined as coping with complexity. Leadership, on the other hand, is primarily about coping with change. These two different functions, coping with complexity and coping with change, are systems of action that involve deciding what needs to be done, creating networks of people and relationships that can accomplish the agenda, and then ensuring that those people actually complete their tasks. However, each of these systems completes these three tasks in very different ways. Organizational teams manage complexity by planning and budgeting, setting targets or goals for the future, establishing steps to achieve those targets, and then allocating resources to accomplish those plans. By contrast, leading an organization to change would begin by setting a direction, developing a vision for the future, along with strategies for producing changes needed to achieve that vision. Management, on one hand, develops the capacity to achieve its plan by organizing and staffing, creating an organizational structure and a set of jobs, staffing those jobs with qualified people, communicating the plan to those individuals, delegating responsibility for carrying out the plan, and devising systems to monitor implementation. The equivalent leadership activity, however, is all about aligning people, communicating the new direction to those who can create coalitions that understand the vision and are committed to its achievement. Management ensures the accomplishment of the plan by controlling and problem solving, monitoring the results versus the plan, both formally and informally via reports and meetings, etc., identifying deviations, and planning and organizing to solve issues. Leadership, on the other hand, achieves its vision by motivating and inspiring, keeping people moving in the right direction despite obstacles, and appealing to basic human needs, values, and emotions. Author John Kotter posits that leadership and management are two very distinct but complementary systems of action. The real challenge, he notes, is to combine strong management and strong leadership and use each to balance the other. Basically, what we need are leader managers. If we accept that the function of leadership is to produce change, then setting the direction of that change is fundamental to leadership. Setting the direction is not the same as planning, not even long-term planning, and people often confuse the two. Planning is a management process. It is deductive in nature, and it is designed to produce orderly results, not change. Setting a direction, however, is far more inductive. Leaders gather a broad range of data, look for patterns, relationships, and linkages to help explain things. The direction-setting aspect of leadership does not produce a plan. Instead, direction setting results in the visions and the overarching strategies for realizing them. A central feature or characteristic of the way schools operate today is interdependence. The work of administrators, faculty, and staff is tied to each other. These types of linkages have the potential to present challenges when a school organization attempts to change. Any sustainable change requires that individuals join up together and move together in the same direction. If we're working with administrators who are overeducated in management and undereducated in leadership, they tend to view these types of challenges as an organizational problem. However, John Kotter suggests that what is needed is not organizing people, but aligning them. For example, managers tend to organize and to create systems that can implement plans precisely and efficiently. They engage in a number of complex decisions, including choosing a structure for the tasks, deciding on reporting relationships, staffing with individuals suited to the task, providing any needed training, communicating plans, and deciding how much authority to delegate and to whom. All of these are organizational judgments, and they are much like architectural decisions. It's a question of fit within a particular context. Aligning, on the other hand, is quite different. Kotter posits that it is more of a communications challenge than a design problem. Aligning involves talking to many, many more people than organizing does. It needs to include anyone who can help to implement the vision and strategies, as well as those who might block the implementation. Getting a school community to comprehend the vision of an alternative future is a much different communication challenge than organizing to fulfill a short-term plan or project. This type of comprehensive process involves not just delivering the message, but getting people to believe the message. In terms of alignment, credibility is key. There are a number of critical elements that are key to the credibility of a message. The track record of the person delivering the message, the content of the message, the communicator's reputation for integrity and trustworthiness, and the consistency between words and actions. As John Kotter notes, aligning has the potential to lead to empowerment in a way that merely organizing rarely does. Managers plan, set sensible targets, organize processes, and make sure that lapses are spotted and corrected. John Kotter suggests that the primary purpose of systems and structures is to ensure that routine tasks are completed successfully. Leaders, however, recognize that sustainable change and overcoming barriers to change requires high energy, a sense of belonging, idealism, and even self-esteem among all stakeholders. Leaders achieve their goals not by controlling or pushing people in the right direction, but by appealing to the basic human needs for achievement, allowing their stakeholders to feel control over their lives and giving them the ability to live up to their ideals. Good leaders tend to touch people deeply and elicit a powerful response from their followers. They motivate their people in a number of ways. For instance, they articulate the organization's vision with a stress on common values, what it means to all of us. They make the work important to each individual participant. They regularly involve others in deciding how we're going to achieve the vision. They support individuals' efforts to realize the vision by providing coaching and feedback, and most importantly, role modeling. Leaders help those in their care to grow professionally. They recognize and reward successes. In essence, they make the work itself intrinsically motivating. They motivate individuals to lead as well. They are often key in creating opportunities for a variety of leadership roles among their people. Not everyone can be good at both leading and managing. Some individuals have the capacity to be excellent managers but not strong leaders. Others have great leadership potential but struggle as managers. Fundamentally, we need to recognize the difference between leadership and management and prepare future leaders to be able to do both. Successful school leaders learn to seamlessly blend their roles as managers and leaders. They understand the importance of both and understand that they can go hand in hand. Many of the culture building and culture shaping aspects of the role of a school leader are accomplished through combining both leadership and management. For example, this is often done when you're managing time, using data, using faculty meetings for professional development and learning, and of course it's so important that our leader managers reflect. For example, when a school leader is monitoring student dismissal, that responsibility could be viewed as both management and leadership, depending on how it's handled. The leader could simultaneously observe and ensure that students are safe as they're leaving the building, and at the same time take the opportunity to talk with students, teachers, and even bus drivers to get a handle on the culture and environment. A leader-manager can help teachers to maximize instructional time by coming in and observing how effectively teachers use the first 5 minutes of class time. Then in follow-up conversations, the leader-manager can share both strategies to make good use of those first 5 minutes and share data that demonstrates that losing 5 minutes a day adds up to over 15 hours of instructional time during the course of a school year. Leader-managers can use the traditional building walkthrough to manage as well as gather data to inform decisions. One school leader carries index cards in his pocket as he moves from room to room. He jots down any maintenance problems that he sees or spots along the way, and later he just shares those cards with his secretary She passes that information on to the custodial office, and once the work has been completed, the card is signed and dated and returned to the school leader. This simple act frees his time to focus on classroom visits and the needs of students and teachers. To successfully use data, effective leaders combine management and leadership roles. While a manager might be concerned with generating and collecting data sources, leaders go beyond merely collecting and scrutinize the most valuable data to guide their decision making. If you're familiar with Stephen Covey, you might be also interested in looking at his time management matrix. It's an interesting tool for dividing leadership tasks into 4 different categories. The link on this page will take you to a brief introduction to that time management matrix. Faculty meetings don't need to be boring. They can actually be designed as prime opportunities for staff development. Leader managers, for instance, would hesitate to use faculty meetings to review information that could simply be delivered via email. Effective leader managers strive to plan faculty meetings so that every participant gets valuable information. These leaders leverage it as learning time. Now, to do that effectively, these leader managers use faculty meetings to focus on instructional and curricular and assessment issues with a focus on fostering students' learning. So, for example, a meeting might be focused on analyzing data together to make decisions about needed interventions. Another one might be analyzing some student work or showcasing some students. Some meetings might be focused on reading an article together and discussing that article. And of course, it would be really important for leader managers to have meetings that are focused on celebrating the small wins, the successes that the faculty has made. We often hear school leaders say that taking time to reflect is a luxury that they just simply cannot afford. However, reflective practice is critical to becoming a good leader manager. Reflection can deepen perspectives. For those who say they cannot find time to reflect, well, we can certainly sympathize with their frustrations and time management constraints. And certainly there are days when the best laid plans go awry. That is part of the reality of the role of a school leader. But those regular surprises are also realities that underscore the importance of keeping a focus on the vision and mission of the school. The vision and mission can serve as the compass of sorts to guide the leader manager over and around the hurdles that occur on a daily basis in our schools. Scheduling time for reflection can help to increase self-knowledge, alignment, authenticity, and of course, learning and growth. Regular self-reflection can really be a practice that accelerates improvement in leadership skills and practices. In fact, it can enable a leader manager to better understand others. Learning to be present, to be aware, and attentive to our experience with people throughout the day is the focus of reflective leadership. By any objective measure, the amount of significant changes in schools has grown tremendously over the past few decades. Some of these change efforts have helped schools to adapt significantly to the shifting conditions and have positioned the entire school community for a better future. But unfortunately, in many situations, the improvements have been too few and have been disappointing, as evidenced by wasted resources and burned out faculty and staff. The ultimate impact on students and families and communities can be devastating. John Kotter, who I've referenced several times in this presentation, is a professor of leadership emeritus at Harvard Business School, and he's written numerous articles and books focused on leading effective change. His body of work points to the critical need for good leadership to make change happen. Kotter states that the key lies in understanding why organizations resist needed change, what is the multi-stage process that can overcome destructive inertia, and how leadership that is required to drive the change process in a socially healthy way means we need much more than just good management. On this slide, we're going to move through Kotter's 8-stage process for leading change, effective change. Everyone that will be involved in the change initiative must understand why the change is necessary and that it has to happen urgently. If you don't feel the change is urgent, you won't feel it's important. Second, we need a guiding coalition. We need to assemble a guiding coalition to sponsor and drive the change. This means a consensus between the major leaders in the school organization. Many change initiatives fail because they lack support from the decision makers or those influential folks on the faculty and staff, because perhaps some of them really don't agree and they only give superficial commitment. Third, the next step would be to develop a vision as to where you want to go and how to get there. If you don't have a vision of the future desired situation, you certainly won't be able to convince people to get fully on board. While we might not like the proposed destination, we can go along with it. What many people can't bear is not knowing where that change is supposed to lead. Next, you have to look at your vision and strategy and critically communicate it throughout the entire school organization through those folks that are now your change champions. To implement change, you also need to empower team members at the appropriate level, because employees throughout the school organization need to feel they still have control of their destiny. Quite often, people will resist change because they feel they no longer have any control over their own destiny or because they feel disempowered. But by giving stakeholders the power to implement the change at their level, while it may slow down the change, it will be much more effective in the long run. To generate a positive momentum and to demonstrate that change delivers results, it's important to focus on the particular small, quick, and easy wins. This will allow everyone involved to see that changes deliver results and that we're moving in the right direction. Sometimes the pressure for change is such that the necessity of the effort is not made to stop and consolidate the quick wins into the actual culture. And so real big changes are never implemented or embedded in the organization. It's important to embed those small wins and quick wins before moving on to larger, more significant pieces of the change. A step-by-step process is the best path to follow. And then finally, these new changes have to be embedded into the entire school culture. This means more communication, more education to ensure that the changes are shared throughout the entire school organization. Now, there's no guarantee that if you follow these 8 steps that everything will work perfectly. In fact, you probably will still have a lot to do. But if you don't follow these 8 steps, you really do reduce your chances of success greatly. In 2005, John Kotter and Holger Rathgeber co-authored a fable entitled Our Iceberg is Melting. Maybe you've heard of it. It's based on John Kotter's pioneering research into the 8 steps that we've been discussing that can produce the needed type of change we need in just about any sort of organization. Our Iceberg is Melting is a simple story about doing well under the stress and uncertainty of rapid change. It's based, of course, on the award-winning work of John Kotter, and it can help you and your colleagues to understand the change process and how to thrive during tough times. Basically, on an iceberg near the coast of Antarctica, a group of beautiful emperor penguins live as they have for many years. Then one day, a curious bird discovers a potentially devastating problem that's threatening their home, and almost no one listens to him. The characters in the story, Fred, Alice, Louis, Buddy, the professor, and No-No, are like people you would probably recognize in your own school organization, perhaps even yourself. Their tale is one of resistance to change and heroic action, and seemingly the intractable obstacles and clever tactics for dealing with those obstacles. Penguins offer an inspiring model as we all struggle to think about how to adapt to new circumstances. The first link below will introduce you to John Kotter and to Fred. It's just a cute way for you to meet the author. For those of you who have not had an opportunity to read this charming fable, the second link will take you to a visual summary of the book. I hope you enjoy. On these next 3 slides, we're going to delve a little deeper into the practical aspects of implementing change in any organization. Each of these slides addresses one of the 3 major stages: creating conditions for change, introducing new practices, and maintaining the momentum. I would urge you to please take some time to really study each of these next 3 slides, paying attention to all 3 of the columns. On this particular slide here, this is where we're having an emphasis on taking the time to ensure that the conditions are right for change, and that has to be cared for. You will also note that there are a few pitfalls to avoid. Also note that there are 4 of the steps that are associated, 4 of the 8, with creating the conditions for change. Once you and your team are sure that you've established a sense of urgency, created a guiding coalition, developed a clear vision and strategy, and then have communicated this vision, you are ready to dig deeper into the actions needed when carefully introducing new practices and the pitfalls to avoid. But your work is not done. Success and sustainability demand that you maintain the momentum. The most general lesson to be learned from successful change efforts is that the change process needs to go through this complete series of phases and steps, and that in total they require a considerable amount of time and effort. Another lesson to consider is that critical mistakes in any of the phases can have a devastating impact on your change effort, slowing momentum perhaps, or even negating hard-won gains. Just as a relatively simple vision is needed to guide an organization through a major change, a vision of the change process, as is presented by Dr. John Kotter, can reduce the error rate, and that can make all the difference between success and failure for leader managers.